closely at this wasteland. Beneath the mud and the mangled iron lie the shattered remains of a booming American city. 2,209 men, women, and children wiped from the face of the earth in a single terrifying afternoon. For over a century, history books have sold you a lie. They call it a natural disaster, the storm of the century, an act of God. But the truth is far darker. This wasn't just the weather. It was a massacre, driven by the extreme greed of the Gilded Age, a private summer playground for the richest and most powerful men in America, an exclusive millionaires club that drowned an entire town.
Welcome to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The year is 1889. This is the beating heart of America's brutal industrial revolution. Down in this narrow valley, the sky is permanently choked with thick black soot, and the rivers, they run the color of rust and iron. The massive Cambria Iron Works operates day and night, a mechanical beast that never sleeps. Men work grueling 12-hour shifts in the unbearable heat of the blast furnaces. They are immigrants, veterans, fathers, striving for a piece of the American dream, forging the very steel rails that are connecting a rapidly expanding nation. It is a life of constant danger and back-breaking labor, defined by coal dust and roaring fire. But down here in the grime, there is a fierce pride, a thriving community forged in steel. But just 14 miles away, high above the smog and the suffering, exists a completely different universe, the pristine Allegheny Mountains. Here lies Lake Conemaugh, a massive man-made ocean in the clouds. This was the exclusive sanctuary of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. Founded by the undisputed titans of the Gilded Age, men like Andrew Carnegie and Henry Clay Frick. While Johnstown toiled in the soot below, the 50 wealthiest families in America enjoyed private sailing regattas and quiet evenings on elegant wraparound porches. To join this club, money wasn't enough. You needed absolute, untouchable power. They demanded an isolated paradise, and they didn't care what it cost to build it, or who happened to live directly beneath it. To create their private ocean, the Millionaires Club needed a dam. They bought an abandoned, crumbling earthen structure that spanned the South Fork Creek. But the club's vision of luxury directly contradicted the laws of engineering. First, they wanted their grand horse-drawn carriages to drive across the top of the lake. So they simply ordered the top of the dam to be shaved off. This drastically lowered its height, stripping away its crucial safety margin. But the most fatal mistake was yet to come. The club had stocked the water with expensive imported black bass for sport fishing. To keep their prized fish from escaping downstream, they installed heavy iron screens over the spillways. In doing so, they turned the dam's only pressure release valve into a deadly trap.
Down in the valley, the men who actually understood iron and earth looked up at the mountain with growing dread. Local engineers from the Cambria Iron Works frequently rode up to inspect the South Fork Dam. What they saw terrified them. The earthen wall was perpetually leaking. The structure was dangerously sagging in the middle. It was not a question of if it would fail, but when. Urgent letters and telegrams were dispatched directly to the club's management. The engineers even offered to send their own workmen to reinforce the dam, completely free of charge. They pleaded with the millionaires to remove the fish screens and install a proper spillway. The response from the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club? Absolute silence. The titans of industry believed they were the masters of nature, too. They completely dismissed the concerns of working-class engineers. After all, the rich always know best. May 30th, 1889, Memorial Day. The sky over western Pennsylvania turns the color of bruised iron. The worst storm in recorded American history stalls directly over the Allegheny Mountains. The rain doesn't fall in drops. It falls in blinding, relentless sheets. In a matter of hours, the quiet mountain streams transform into raging, violent torrents, and every single drop of that water is emptying directly into the club's private lake. Lake Conemaugh begins to swell rapidly, choking on its own massive volume. The water level is rising by a terrifying inch every 10 minutes. Debris from the flooded forest, uprooted trees, thick mud, and boulders washes toward the dam. It heads straight for the spillway, the only escape route for the surging water. But the club's heavy iron fish screens are waiting, and they are about to do their job perfectly. Up at the dam, pure panic finally sets in. The water is about to crest the dirt wall. A group of desperate club workers grab shovels and pickaxes in the pouring rain. They frantically try to dig a bypass trench to release the trapped water and save the dam. But the mountain bedrock is too hard. Their iron tools simply bounce off the solid stone. It is completely useless. John Park, the resident engineer, looks at the crumbling earth and realizes the dam is doomed. He jumps on a horse and races down the treacherous mountain trail to send a frantic telegraph. The message reaches the telegraph office in Johnstown. The dam is getting worse and may possibly go. But down in the valley, the warning falls on deaf ears. The town had heard a dozen false alarms about the Millionaire's dam over the past 10 years. They assume it's just another rumor. People stay in their homes. No one evacuates.
At 3:10 p.m., the unthinkable happens. The center of the South Fork Dam completely gives way. 20 million tons of water, an entire mountain lake, is instantly unleashed. It doesn't flow, it explodes. A roaring 70-foot-high wall of dark water and pulverized earth. The monster descends the narrow, steep valley at 40 miles per hour, gathering terrifying speed and mass. It completely annihilates everything in its path. Entire forests are ripped from their roots in seconds.
Massive iron passenger trains are picked up and crushed like tin toys. In Johnstown, the residents finally hear it before they see it. A deafening roar, like 1,000 freight trains. Then, the sky turns black as the massive wave eclipses the sun. The water hits the city with the force of an atomic bomb, instantly crushing the wooden houses into matchsticks. In just 10 minutes, the thriving industrial town is wiped from the face of the earth.
When the water finally receded, the true horror of the Gilded Age was revealed. 2,209 people were dead. Entire families simply erased. Hundreds of victims were never identified, buried quietly in mass graves of the unknown. The nation was outraged. The desperate survivors demanded justice, pointing straight at the mountain. But the men of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club had the best lawyers in America. They argued the storm was unprecedented, an unforeseeable, tragic act of God. In the end, not a single member of the elite club was ever held legally or financially responsible. They returned to their mansions, while Johnstown was left to bury its dead in the mud.
The Johnstown Flood wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a terrifying monument to what happens when absolute power and extreme greed are allowed to play God.